What's going on, people? Welcome back to Bois, your one-stop shop for all your energy drink reviews. I'm Christian,
I'm Brian.
and we are the Boys, and it is January 1st, so Happy New Year. Um, Probably be releasing this episode shortly after the New Year. It's not going to be right away, but hope everyone had a good holiday season in general. Um, yeah, it's just another day, but it's a new year. So today, I don't know what Brian has in store. I got us a one of my favorite brands. The flavor is one that I've only had once before, and it was a few months back, so I can't really remember if I liked it a whole lot or not. Um, but I got another one. It is Gorilla Mind Berry Burst. So interesting flavor for sure. It it looks like blueberry and like blue raspberry on the label, so had to pick one up. I don't know. Brian's got a strange look on his face. Maybe he got the same exact thing.
I have been wanting so bad to get my hands on that, and I cannot find it anywhere.
Yeah, man,
I
Barry
have been
Burst.
I've been to Vitamin Shop, GNC. I've scoured every gas station that may remotely. I've checked out the local gyms everywhere. I cannot get the Berry Burst. It's the second most elusive energy drink flavor I've tried to get my hand on. Strictly behind the um bum Dr. Pepper flavor. But I'm not sure if
Yeah,
the bum Dr. Pepper flavor's been released yet, so this one may be more
yeah.
elusive based on
I
that
mean,
fact.
they just have this at the gym I go to. They have like all the Gorilla Mind flavors, so that's sick. I picked up I don't know if here's a question: is 3D energy still a thing? I heard something that like 3D was. Um,
So they are still a thing. What's going on for anyone who does follow Christian Guzman? They're sunsetting a flavor, and it's between like the Rocket Pop, the citrus like Mountain Dew kind of flavor, and then
mhm.
one other one. It's getting sunsetted. One of them's getting reformulated, and one of them's getting like no change at all. But essentially, what it is that they will be doing like a new overhaul. They're going to change a little bit of the look. They're going to change some of the formulations, it sounds like, and some of the flavorings. And he's been playing with that through like the back half of the year last year, just doing it kind of in secret. And I think this is kind of coming off of the cusp of him and Max Tuning being so tight, and Max Tuning getting sour strips or like the parent company actual candy to get so large that it could be purchased by Hershey's. Sorry, I was thinking Hershey's barbecue down here. Um, but but I think that's kind of what it is, and he sees that there's a lot of I don't want to say he's doing this for the money, but I think that he sees that there's a lot of like growth aspect in like the consumables space. So he's going to reinvest into one of those projects that previously he put a lot of effort into, kind of pulled and backed off a little bit while he was chasing other endeavors. And now I think, you know, Alpha Land is like established. Alpha Elite is its own entity. He's like, all right, I want to turn the corner back to 3D and do this. And then
Yeah.
that was another thing, like we mentioned on our last episode, 3D and Up Energy or Uptime Energy had like a legal dispute because 3D's original name was Up. Um,
Mhm.
and it looked very similar. They also had the bottled, that can bottle kind of look. So I remember like there was like a legal dispute with that. I think that was finished when it became 3D, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. But that could be part of it. I don't think it is. I think it's more so just dude was getting married, buying his brand new home. If anybody's seen that, it's fucking insane. Building Alpha Land, having Alpha Elite take off, and then his wife, her company, something has to kind of go off to the side. And I
Mhm.
think 3D was it.
Yeah. I mean, they sell 3Ds at the gym I got this bad boy at too, so I picked up a couple of those. That citrus flavor is good. The lemonade flavor is goaded.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
The
excited for this
lemonade is
berry
the yellow
burst
can,
though.
right?
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
Alpha, and it's the only one that has like the Alpha Land logo or like the
Oh,
Alpha
that's
League
sick.
like logo
The
behind
wolf.
it. Yeah, and like it has like the do more, learn more, dream more, be more, whichever three that
Yeah.
is. Do more, learn more, be more, dream more. I
It's
don't know what it is, dude.
we got yeah, we'll find it.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, excited for Berry Burst.
Yeah,
Wish
now we're on a
Brian could
tangent.
get his hands on it.
I'm excited for Berry Burst for you. I just have a black coffee in my favorite mug.
Dude, that's a sick mug.
Oh yeah. Mm.
All
Be
right,
legends.
well,
Please pop that top.
I'm gonna pop that top. Here we go.
Oh,
Nice. Got
oh,
vapor
that
up
was
at the
good.
top.
That was
Oh, I
good.
think you can almost see that. Maybe I'm just seeing stuff, but for a little
No,
bit
you
you can
can
see
see
a
it.
little vapor. Pungent berry flavor.
Please describe this to me. I'm so jealous right now.
It does smell like a mix between like a blueberry and then like a blue raspberry flavor. So it the closest thing, you don't really see many blueberry energy drinks, really any that I can think of off the top of
The
my head.
I can only think of
Maybe
one.
something from like Red Bull. They might have done something, or
Red Bull has a blueberry, and then Amino Energy has a blueberry lemonade.
that's right. The blueberry lemonade's a little more popular.
Shout out our original
This
mics.
this almost reminds me kind of the like the rain blue razzle, but a little bit more,
Like sweet, like blueberry-esque.
yeah, more blueberry-ish. So let's go ahead and take a sip. Oh yeah.
Is this what it was like to be you when you were in the DR? And I was just like, yeah, this new flavor came out and I'm crushing it right now. And you're like, I have ice water right
Yeah, pretty much. So
now.
uh yeah, dude, that is good. It is kind of, the flavor is also like it's kind of like a rain blue razzle, but sweeter and like more distinct like blueberry flavor. Man, that's really good. I'm a big fan of
So
Gorilla Mind. It's kind of up there on the flavors. Probably not my favorite, but this is
rank that
solid.
against the blackberry lemonade. That's what I wanted to ask.
I like this better than the blackberry lemonade. I like it better.
I
Um,
knew it. I knew
yeah,
it.
it's good. I think this is up there with like the black cherry
Black
vanilla is
cherry,
great,
vanilla,
and then the
strawberry candy.
strawberry and the watermelon candy are both really good. And this is probably kind of up there in that top three,
The-
four.
And you put it above the lemon drop one too.
Yes, and I just had the lemon drop one the other day, and it was good. I will say
I do like the lemon drop.
that that reminded me of that like the rain like lemon heads one that they used to do. They don't do anymore. It
That needs
was
to come
like,
back.
I know, with the blue and yellow
And it
crown.
that was I think they discontinued that when Monster like purchased or had like that stake in Rain. I think they discontinued that one. They used to have like a melon one too. Not watermelon, it
Yeah,
was a straight up
Melon
melon.
Mania. It was
Yes.
Melon Mania. I
Oh, that was
remember
so good.
they used to sell those where I went to college. Like you could use your meal dollars for those. Oh my god, that was dangerous. But like people would like raid those. It was that and like Celsius. Like if you got there too late, you had to get a Celsius. But like because everyone wanted the rains. Um, but yeah,
Um,
very good, very good. I had they came out with an orange mango flavor. I picked that one up knowing that I don't really love orange mango. I like orange, like a good orange. Oh, Brian just disappeared. I guess I'll just keep rolling here. Uh, I don't love mango flavored energy drinks,
mhm.
and he's back.
I'm back.
Um,
My internet just literally
I
went out.
don't I don't love like just mango energy drinks, but I was like, okay, I'll try it. Girl of Mine has good flavors. Wasn't a huge fan. It was just like a typical orange mango flavor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so definitely it was better than like the tiger's blood, obviously, but it's I probably wouldn't get it again, just because they have so many other really good
I'll
flavors.
never forget the day I brought that tiger's blood into work. I was so excited because we were trying to get our hands on Gorilla Mine forever, and I was like, "Oh, this would be a weird flavor. That sounds cool. That'll be something that'll be fun." And then, boom, it was like
Nasty.
pina colada with like fruit punch, and it was just
Yeah, it was just
it.
ass.
And it's like I could understand like what market they were going for with it. I get that. It's just that's like the two flavors I hate. I hate pina colada and I
Yeah,
hate fruit punch.
yeah, not good for sure.
No, that blueberry
But yeah,
best. Ugh.
this berry is smacking.
I
Not to rub it in.
I'm so like when we get off today, I might like go bang on the door at Vitamin Shop and be like, "Are you open? It's New Year's. People have
Berry
resolutions."
burst. Berry burst. uh,
Just
yeah, dude, this is good. Iowa Strength, shout out. They got like all the Grill Mine flavors. They got all the pretty much all the bum flavors. Ghost, all that good stuff. So yeah.
I'm trying to think of
Speak.
oh, you go. You go.
I was just gonna say, speaking of New Year's, what do we think about New Year's resolutions in general? I know I've gone both sides of the spectrum before. Are you a type of person that like reflects on your does much reflecting at all, or like reflects at the end of the year or anything like that? Think it's helpful? Think it's bullshit? Somewhere in between? What do you think? Let's just get the raw deal here.
It's tough. I think a good, like a healthy amount of self-reflection is a good thing, especially at the end of the year and like what you like to genuinely look at yourself and be like, this is something I want to change, but it means nothing without a plan of action, if that makes sense. Like a lot of people, they're used like they want to lose a little bit of weight or they want to make more money or whatever it is, right? And they go out and they buy a gym membership and it lasts like the resolutions never make it past January. I
Right.
think when it comes to like those resolutions, the reflection has to be about what are you unhappy about and like keep boiling it down a little bit more into well, what can I do something small every day to accomplish that goal versus like having something so like be more process oriented versus goal oriented. I think that's a big piece, which it's corny, but it's the truth. Like I'm unhappy with how I look. Okay, break it down. Maybe you eat a little bit more protein every single day and you have to go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, right? Whether or not it's a 20-minute workout or an hour and a half, you have to go 20, 4 times a week. That's a big thing, I think, where people go wrong. I myself, I'm not necessarily on the, I'm going to make this big change and reinvent myself and do this thing differently in 2025. 2024 from,
Then you give up and you're like, ah, shit,
yeah.
2026 my year.
We're 5 days into January, like we'll just we'll,
We'll get it
we'll get
next
it next
year.
year. This year's washed. Um, but like a genuine self-reflection of things that you have, I don't want to say like an issue with or you're unhappy about, but I want to make this better. I want to do this way. Then you go through and say, all right, well, why am I unhappy with that? Or why do I want to make that better? Cool. What can I do? What do I have to do in a year? Great. Now, what do I have to do in 6 months? What do I have to do every month? What do I have to do in every week? What's a small thing I do in every day? And just chip away at that and almost like create like that really, really dialed in, like Jocko, prioritize, execute. What's the thing I can do immediately? What's the thing I can do middle tier after that immediate is done? So on and so forth. I'm a big fan of those. Like for 2024, it was I wanted to buy a house. Um, as anybody can tell,
And you bought a
I'm in a
house.
new, I'm in a little bit of a new studio. It's not done yet. There's going to be some pieces that go behind me that hopefully I think a lot of people will love. But in a new house, in a new office, immediately got in, painted the office. cracked black pepper. It looks sick. If anyone knows me, like black is like everything. Like that's the color I wear all the time. But now it's like, what do I need to do? Like I think a little bit more like self-improvement when it comes to stuff like that is a little bit more of a better resolution. Like things that you can
Mhm.
control, right? Like people like I said, like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to make more money. Well, that it's not always directly in your control. So like
Right.
if you don't own your own business, then it's like, how do you get there? Like, or if you do own your own business, it's like, well, then what is the goal that gets there? Like maybe your goal shouldn't be, I want to make more money. It should be, I want to make more sales, or I want to be better at marketing my business,
Hmm.
or
Provide a better service
yeah,
product,
whatever it is. Like
etc.
you should, I think those are the goals that should be the ones in the New Year's resolutions
Yeah.
versus like those, I want to win a lottery. That's great, brother. You and 7.8 other billion people in the entire world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just me. What about you?
Yeah. No, I'm similar to that. I think like obviously like there's always the people that are just like, oh, if you really wanted to change, you wouldn't have to wait till a new year. But it's like, yeah, I think that is for me, like personally, like especially I think once you get older and you come home less, and then when you come home, it's usually around the holidays and things kind of slow down, and you actually do have time to think and kind of reflect on like because like when you're like in your busy periods of the year, it's like tough to like it just goes by so quick and like you're not even like you don't have time to really reflect. So it's I think it is good to take some time and just look back and see like okay, this like some good things happened this year, some things you can improve on, and just like kind of cool to see like the progression of your life, so to say. Um, I think where some people get there's I see like two major pitfalls when it comes to like planning goals. One, like you said, they're too broad. Like they just have these big goals and no plan of action, no like actual steps or like habits that they can do to actually make those goals come to fruition. And then I think you can also go on the other side where it's like you had this super detailed plan. It's like you wrote like a small book about your plan about like all these goals. I think too many resolutions or like too many things you want to change is another one. Like, dude, like pick like one to three, like no more than like maybe like one or two big ones. Because if you have like anything more than that, like five or six different goals, it's like you're gonna be a mile wide and an inch deep, so to say. So it's better just to kind of like
Oh, I like
one or
that.
two really good habits that you can form. I think every year or like however long it takes you to form it. Maybe every like 3 months, and that's just a part of your routine. All right, now I want to do these one or two things, and just do that one or two at a time, and then I think it can be as simple as that. Like, here's the goal, here's the habit that cultivates that goal, and here's kind of like my measurables. Like at the end of a week, how many of times should I have done this month, etc. Like that's kind of what I started this, I guess, before um, the new year, probably late November, but it was kind of my one thing I wanted to put more stuff out there for Bev Boys, and it's like, hey, like I can do one Instagram reel a day. That would be really good.
Hmm.
Nothing crazy. Um, I know we have the Opus clip that really helps us kind of make a lot more of those clips now without a ton of hassle. So that's been huge. But just one of those, and then I mean, now it's just kind of in my routine. And now if I want to do something else, like it can really be like as simple as that. I don't think I would have done that if I like, okay, I need to do this and then three other things in separate areas of my life. So yeah, I think those are the big pitfalls when like because really, I mean, I know this is a really popular book, Atomic Habits. Like if you've read that, like he talks about like having systems and processes over like end results. And I think that really is like the goals, like it's cool, it's cool and good to have goals, but like it really boils down to like the habits. I know there's a quote that says like, oh, like your habits basically like determine your life. It's like this little stuff you do every single day.
Hmm.
It's corny, but like it really is like true. And I think the more you can make those habits like put you in the direction of where you want to go, or even better yet, taking away the habits that are putting you in the other direction. Sometimes it's more about eliminating the shit that's setting you back versus the stuff that could be putting you forward. Um, but yeah, I think good and bad. I always think it's good to reflect. I think I kind of get I feel like they've kind of gotten a bad rap because they'd be like, "Oh, like you're just soft. You wouldn't wait till the new year if you really wanted to do it." But
Yeah,
it's like there's a good and a bad way to do it, in my opinion. So
I think with that too, I think this might just be me in my opinion, but a lot of people who hate New Year's resolutions are uncomfortable with the self-reflection because they're uncomfortable sitting there and being like, I don't like this about myself.
hmm
Where, and I, obviously oh, if you're gonna wait till the new year, that's soft. Like you should just, but it's the same thing as anything else where it's like that initial push that's like, hey, no, you should go do that because X, Y, Z. People, it's a good time because it's a fresh start in their eyes. Like it's an appropriate time for them to have that reflection. You know, the week, a week and a half between December 23rd and the 31st of December, how much stuff is really getting done because you have two holidays in there. Everyone's either, if you're at work, you're in and out. If you work in athletics, how much you're really doing if you're outside a professional organization who's got to play on those holidays, like, or like the, five college teams that are playing over the next 2 days, or even like college basketball. That's about it. Like, a lot of people will be in that downtime. Like, that's a good opportunity to say, to not be like flooded with things going on. You should take that time, have self-reflection, understand what it is that you have accomplished, that you want to accomplish, and then break it down from there and say, like, this is what I need to do and this is how I need to do it. And I think you make a good point too of like, it doesn't have to be 10 things that you hate and you want to change your entire life. But if you say, well, I'm gonna do one small day-to-day thing and I want to accomplish one medium goal and I want to accomplish one big goal. It's pretty easy when you just have discipline and you kind of do those things that, what, like you said, even just removing bad things like, oh, I shouldn't eat as many cookies because I love cookies.
yeah,
Before we got on here, I had 5 cookies. I will not lie. We got them last night, and I was like, I have to crush these things right now. So, not off to a great start for New Year's.
it's all right. You'll get it next year,
This
right?
year's washed. I think I should just gain 30 pounds and do it next year.
Yeah, dude. That's how some people think. Uh,
Uh,
yeah, and I think it's also good. I was talking with our buddy Gabe yesterday, and like he's had a little bit more downtime from his pretty busy schedule, and I think we were talking about like it's good to just kind of get away from work if you can, or just like what you're invested in like entirely and not think about it for a little bit.
you get
Because
a reset.
and I know it's tough because like yeah, and I know it's tough because like hopefully like you like your job somewhat and like enjoy it and look forward to like helping people through it and like improving your craft and whatnot. But like, dude, like there's gonna be times in the year, busy times, where like you just can't do that. So you might as well take advantage of that now, get that little reset. And I think it kind of I think you can do this throughout the year in other ways too. Like I know like performance coaches, especially like always reading like training books and stuff like that, which is great. But like kind of getting out of that and like reading something different, not always trying to think about like, oh, what do I need to learn about this new training method or energy system development method. Read a freaking fiction book or read a book on something just random that has nothing to do. And sometimes it's funny, like you'll read a book that has nothing to do or seemingly has nothing to do with what your like career is, and you can kind of connect it back. And I think that's kind of cool.
So, what was for you, like, what was a book that you read that you were able to connect that? if someone were to ask you, they would, and you said, "Oh, I'm reading this," they'd be like, "Why are you reading that?"
Dude, I remember I'll give you probably the most extreme example. I read Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. So like
Hmm.
that's like a classic book. And like I had never really read any like classic like fiction books. But like obviously like I've heard of Jules Verne, like he's a really good like a historically good author. Um but I read that book and I was like and it was like a really good book and it was just like a good read, but it was also like the story of it was like it they go on this crazy journey and like all this stuff goes wrong and the guy that's like heading can't even remember the names now, but like the dude that's heading the journey like just stays like super poised the whole time and he like never panics and like they just do like he's just like confident in his abilities to like make it around the world in 80 days and that was just kind of like it was like like this stuff isn't just like wasting time. Like there are like lessons in that, and it's also good to just like I feel like that like fuels the creative side of your brain when you're not always reading like stuff that's like super scientific or something like that.
Yeah,
Another like those mental models books were another one where it's like
incredible.
seemingly unrelated, but like, dude, I think everyone could get something out of reading those because that's just like general life concepts of like how to think better and make better decisions, and that's there's nothing you can do that's not going to help you in.
Like, like bringing up mental models, like one of the biggest ones that stands out was from Volume One, and it was just like standing too close to the elephant. That like phenomenon.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
love that one. I reference it. I don't know how many times where it's like someone gets like and like just relating it back to S&C, it's like you stare at this one aspect of your programming this entire time and you're like, is this right? Is this the right move? And it's like take 10 steps back. Look at
Yeah.
everything.
Zoom out.
And does making it 3 by 5 versus 3 by 6 or 3 by 8 really make that much of a difference versus the entirety of everything that you're doing all coming together? It's, the elephant's ass isn't the wall. It's not a wall. It's just the elephant's ass. Take a step back. Um, I'm kind of on a mental models piece though, but again, volume one was really good. I mean, I think that one's I don't know if I just have a special place because that was like the first one I read, obviously, but like the map is your guidance. Not everything is going to be on the map, but
Hmm.
that I guess that model and it
Yeah.
for anyone that doesn't know, it's essentially your map is your guide, right? But not everything is going to be on that map. But you should have detailed maps, and your ledger of the map should have detailed descriptions, right? So you should know what those pieces along the way are going to mean, and you should be very oriented and detail oriented. But you need to pick your head up from the map because the log that fell in the path isn't going to be on that map. Those
Right.
obstacles that come into your way aren't going to be there. So you still have to be present in the moment in order to kind of go through and overcome what is ahead of you, which I really, really like. There's so many people, like if I pull that back to like S&C, they'll say, a really good piece of this is like when someone reads triphasic training. Triphasic 2 has come out. I really want to get that book, but they'll say, well, I got to do 87, 85 to 87% at 3 by 2, or I have to go full super max. And it's like, that's a really good guide, but sometimes your athletes might not be totally equipped for that. Maybe you just walk it down a couple percentage points or use a training max instead, and you're good to go. It
Hmm.
is really, I don't want to say it's really that simple, but it's like you got to pick your head up a little bit and say like, what's the context of this? And I think a lot of like younger coaches are a little nervous to do that because they don't trust themselves. I was there. I'm certain you were probably there as well, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is how it's
Still do
supposed,
that
yeah.
sometimes.
And it's like, this is how it's supposed to be. It's like, that is how it
Hmm.
was written, right? But that, when Cal wrote it and when Van Dyke put his input on it, like they were training a different team in a different situation with different equipment and different, just
Hmm.
everything is different. You might not be that. You might have a training age of 3 years and you're in a weight room with 10 racks with 40 kids. You probably got to
Right.
modify something a little bit. It's okay.
Hmm.
Do the best with
Yes.
what you can and get creative. Those are guiding
Hmm.
principles. You can't be glued on just the method itself. And like you can adhere to the guiding principles without making it a carbon copy of what they were doing. Because if you do that, you'll copy successes, but you're going to copy every failure too. So like you have to learn to essentially you have to learn how to bastardize a program to make it fit to what you need.
Right. Yeah, that reminds me of specifically with the training piece. I got to go to Chicago a couple weeks back for some organizational meetings, and we had a couple meetings with just like our S&C staff, and kind of just going over like we moved a lot of people around, and it just my boss said this thing. We were kind of going over like how we're gonna put our programs in our software so that like everyone's able to like see each other's programs and it's like somewhat organized. But somehow it came up to the topic of um my boss was like we're about outputs over exercises. I think that's kind of like a great example of that, like not being married to one specific exercise for, if you love a front squat and you never do any sort of different squat pattern. Not to say that like some athletes are going to do better with certain exercises based on their anatomy and just like training age and whatnot, but like that one really hit home for me. It's like, yeah, like it is really about like, does it matter if you get the best results with a front squat versus a zercher versus a safety bar back squat for like a squat pattern, as long as you get that end output? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really going for. Let's just build that machinery. So that kind of reminded me of that.
I would definitely agree. Like at the end of the day, the knees still, if we talk about a squat, at the end of the day, the knees are still bending. You
Yeah,
know,
bend those
the
knees.
knees are bending and
Yeah,
extending, so we're
that's really
good.
all that
Yeah,
matters.
it doesn't matter. Are you straining it hard enough for it to become, a strength exercise, or are you moving fast enough for it to be a more, I don't want to say speed, but like more power speed or strength speed kind
Yeah.
of oriented along that curve? It's okay if, one day you do a single leg squat off a box like a pistol, another day you do a back, someday you do a front. They don't,
Hmm.
obviously do what is best for the situation, but don't be married to an exercise. Who was it that said that, if you don't mind me asking?
That was Blaine, like our freaking my ultimate boss, I guess. I feel like I have a lot of bosses, but that's he's our director. But like, yeah, he's like we're outputs over exercises, so that's coming from the top down. So,
Love that.
um, but yeah, I thought that was simple, right to the point, and it was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So,
Clear,
um,
concise, and communicated to everybody, which I think that's like a big piece too,
mhm.
is it's easy for everybody to get bought in on a mission that, you know, from the top down, it was easily communicated all the way down. And it was like, there's no questions really to be asked because it was so simplified. It was just said in one sentence. So
Yeah,
there's
100%.
not really going to be a ton of questions, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, while we're on the topic of like books and stuff, what are some of your like top top books? I feel like whenever I come home, one of the things I look forward to is like because I can only take so many of my actual like physical copy books with me,
Yeah.
and like there's just something about that physical copy that's better than an ebook
Oh,
in my
yeah.
opinion. And just like coming home and seeing like a full bookshelf of like books that I've collected over the years. What are some of like the favorite books that you've read? Training, business, like nothing's off limits here.
Okay. What am I?
Or listen to. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm a big audiobook
I
guy
I
too.
love an audiobook. One of them that I absolutely loved, uh, training wise, was The Governing Dynamics of Coaching by James Smith. That one was a very thought-provoking one. That was one of the very first books I was ever handed to as an intern. And they said, like, you're not ready for it, but you need to read this book. Um, and that was really cool because it really made me understand a lot more training concepts in theoretical practices versus like do sets X reps, X weight times this equals this. It's like, no, you need to understand how the body is going to understand stress and that it can't differentiate between emotional and physical stress. Things like that, and like
Mhm.
taking everything into account, looking at like I hate the, I don't want to use like the term holistic, but a full holistic picture where everything is interacting within a complex but not complicated system. Complicated system is way too many moving parts to accomplish one single thing. A complex system is going to be this will interact with this. This then comes back around and interacts with this because all these pieces come together. And I think it's really easy to get confused in that aspect of like which one you have, and taking that step back, I think will help you. Um, I never thought I would say this just because I'm not like a culture, quote unquote, culture guy, but Extreme Ownership and The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko and Leaf, those are phenomenal books when you like look at it from truly like a leadership standpoint of like I think less about like obviously you'll have like the coaching aspect where you're coaching the athletes, but I think like if you're working within an organization, those are huge. I would say those for sure. Mental models, I haven't read volume 4, but those are good. Obviously, Charlie Francis, you know I'm gonna have to mention him in the Key Concepts book. But one of them that I really, really liked, I'll say two more and then I'll shut up and let you talk. But um, I loved 48 Laws of Power. And I loved it for a different reason. Everybody wants it because they want to like use those lessons to manipulate people.
Have power over you.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the best history books. I
Dude,
I love history, and
Robert Greene is so good at like integrating stories into his like
yes,
main points of his books. It's
and
insane.
every chapter, and I full disclosure, like I listened to it because I was like, I got a 17-hour drive. This is perfect. Um, it's like I said, it's really cool lessons, but every chapter is a lesson on how essentially to get power over somebody. But the coolest aspect is he draws a specific example from a point in time in history of how someone used that in order to accomplish that chapter or that lesson. It was such a sick story. Like he's bringing up like, you know, French Revolution. He's bringing up Napoleon. He's bringing up, World War II lessons. It's so sick. Um, and then one of them that I really liked, and it's not a thought book, it's not a self-help, it's not a training book. It was just a very fun read slash listen that I think, if anyone knows me, they know I love stand-up comedy. Tom Segura, one of the best comedians I think I've ever seen. He's got a book called I'd Like to Play Alone, Please. And it's just a collection of short stories of him and his life, and he reads the audiobook. So it's like him doing comedy, but him telling stories. It's lighthearted, it's fun. It brings up pieces in his life that, you might not know about earlier. And that one was like, obviously it's super fun to listen to, but it was like a self-reflection kind of book of like, he's talking about his dad, and his dad passed away, but it was like how much he loved and appreciated him. And that's the one, like you said, like you can connect it back to your life, and it's like, oh man, like there's some things that my dad did that I think are hilarious that make you like reflect, like,
Hmm.
am I, do I communicate to my dad that I love him as much as I do? Do I tell them that? Those pieces, that one was unreal for that.
Man, that's awesome. I'm not a I don't even know if I could say I'm not a huge fan of comedy. I just haven't watched a ton of stand up,
Mhm.
but that it sounds like a good book. As far as some of my favorites, training wise, I'm gonna have to say like Charlie Francis, The Structure of Training for Speed was one of the first books that I got like handed as an intern. I gotta give homage to the 8 Vector book, honestly. Like even before I went to Elon, like I had gotten assigned that book for a class, um, luckily, and like I think that obviously like helped me as a coach, but it's just like, and it's kind of cool to like see that like I mean actually get to meet the people that like made that system. So
So
that's pretty sick.
not to get not to interrupt you, but if you go back to one of the very first demo videos for the egg vector model, I'm in those demo videos
At CSP,
at
right?
CSP. Those
Yes.
original concepts, those were starting to get laid while Jordan was there as my internship coordinator, and he would pull us out as interns. He's like, "Hey, I want to go test something. I gotta film this. Come here." So like we're in there like doing some of these concepts. Um, so I lived the book as an athlete while it was kind of like not getting written, but like that thought formulation was getting made. So I think that one I didn't mention it, but that is a pinnacle book. I think benefited me as an athlete and as a coach.
Yeah. And just all the like there's so many like demo videos included and like tools like extra stuff besides just reading the book.
Hmm.
Um that that it makes it super helpful. The Quadrant System by Daniel Bove, that was one that I read during the Elon internship
Hmm.
that I took a ton of notes on that and was like, wow, this is like it's always easier when like someone can put something a little bit more complex into
Very
more
simple
of a
terms.
system. Yeah, like a system to like almost like an algorithm. Obviously, like you're gonna have variance within that, but like okay, like if a day looks somewhat like this on the court, maybe the training will look somewhat like this, and just helping you make decisions in environments where there's a lot of variability, especially like for him, like in the NBA, like chaotic with the travel and stuff like that. I feel like having systems like that and being able to like adjust on the fly
Hmm.
is super important. So I really like that book. Robert Greene, again, I love his 48 Laws of Power is great. My favorite book by him is called Mastery.
Hmm.
That's another one of his well-known books. I've read it, listened to it in an audiobook. That's a really good book. He does it the same thing, like stories of like people that have achieved mastery in a certain field and how they cultivated that mastery and like methods to like how you can do that. That's a really good one. Um, I'd have to say Tim Grover's book Relentless is good.
Yes.
That'll always be one of my favorites. His book Winning is also good, but the OG Relentless is probably my favorite out of the two. The Mental Models books are great. I'm a big fan of all of those. Um, I'm trying to think the the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Also
That's
great.
a good one. That's like a counterintuitive like self help book, which is why I like it.
Same with
Um,
essentialism.
yep, essentialism is kind of the same thing. There's one that I think it's a little more popular now. It's this guy called Oliver Berkman. He wrote this book called 4,000 Weeks. And basically, it was like, I think the subtitle is like Time Management for Mortals. And basically, like, average person lives like 4,000 weeks during their lifetime. And just kind of like it kind of flipped stuff like on its head because there's plenty of books out there that are all about like the positivity and optimism and stuff like that. And this book was kind of like flipping it on its head and being like real about like yo like you're definitely not going to do everything that you want to do in your life, and you got to like accept that, and also all these other things that are kind of uncomfortable. But after you read it, you're like, damn, like that kind of puts it in perspective and like just like being okay with like not accomplishing everything and knowing that like everyone else also has that problem as long as you're not immortal.
Hmm.
Yeah. Another some books that I've been listening to on audiobook, and I have the physical copy of one of them. This book called Anti-Fragile by
Oh,
Nassim Taleb. I don't know if you've heard of that,
very,
but
very,
that
very good
I'm a
book.
yeah, I'm a fan of Nassim Taleb's books. That specifically that one, and then
Get in the
Skin in the
game.
Game is another book that he wrote.
Yep.
I know he's written The Black Swan and a couple other books. Basically, like he's big on like randomness and uncertainty, and like basically like we know a lot less. I feel like the central theme of his like writing is like we know a lot less than we think we know, and that's what can get us in trouble. But dude, like Anti Fragile and Skin in the Game, those are definitely two books that I would recommend to like everyone. Just about like how anti-fragile is a lot about like how systems can be either fragile, robust, or anti-fragile, stuff like that. And then Skin in the Game is exactly what it sounds like. Talks a lot about like how people basically like risk to reward, and how some people will have high upside but they don't have any of the risk, and that's people that don't have skin in the game. But if you have skin in the game, like you're exposed to a lot of risk but also the reward. So that's his writing is very interesting to me because it's like philosophical but also somewhat scientific but also critical of like a lot of the things that kind of get portrayed to be like true information within today's like society.
Hmm.
And he like really challenges that, and like he isn't like associated with like he'll just like call anyone out if he thinks they're like on some bullshit. So I really like his writing for that reason as well.
Um, I read one of them, but he's got a couple. But how do you feel about Malcolm Gladwell?
I haven't read any of his work. I know he's popular for that book that talks about the 10,000 hour rule. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it's
Was
called.
that's
Outliers.
Outliers, and then he has
Yeah, I've he has a couple other books. I know he has. I mean,
Blink.
he's pretty popular.
Bl-
Yeah,
Blink is one of
Blink.
them, and that's like that one's like the power to basically thinking on the fly, like thinking without thinking.
Hmm.
So it's like makes innate decisions just happen because you've ingrained so much and you've thought so much that now when it happens on the fly, you can just process and go. I haven't read it, but that's one I really want to read. I haven't read Outliers. It's one I want to get into, but I did read Talking to Strangers, and that one is like a lot of the basis is, be conversational and be able to mend that conversation, and it's a lot like How to Win Friends and Influence People in some way, shape, or form, like that kind
Hmm.
of book. Very, very, very good. I want to read Outliers. There's one that I want to get my hands on. I was at the airport coming back from a trip, and I saw it and I haven't been able to purchase it. But you know who Rick Rubin is, right?
Is it The Creative Act by Rick Rubin?
Yes. Have you read it?
I've read it. I've read it, dude. That's I forgot about that one. That one is a good book. You should definitely read it.
Okay, because I wanted
Cuz
to read that.
that's yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I always like I feel like Nassim Taleb talks about this, like you got to talks about like skin in the game. Like I think with Rick Rubin, like it talks about like the creative act, and he's like been in the creative process with a lot of like big time artists. So it's like that gives you that extra like it's very reputable in that manner. Um, and it's kind of a book where you it's one of those books where you can just flip open to like any page. Like it's a lot of short chapters. You could flip them into like any page and kind of almost use it as like a cookbook, or you could read it from front to back, and it's will still it's not gonna not make sense if you're just like skipping around. And it's one of those books that just looks sick. Like
The
the
cover,
material is nice.
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say getting into like that doesn't affect. Well, maybe it does affect the quality of the reading. The mental models book, same thing. Like it's that like
it's almost like
not a cover,
like
but it's
stitched.
yeah, it's like a stitched. And it just looks sick on a shelf.
Yeah.
So would definitely recommend that book. Oh, another book that's like I feel like just anyone would enjoy is Sapiens, the book Sapiens by I think it's Yuv, Yuval Harari or something like that,
Hmm.
but it just talks about like the history of all mankind,
Oh,
and he
that'd
does
be
a really good
sick.
job of just yeah, that one's a good one. And then he has another book, I think it's called can't remember what it's called, but it's like what he thinks the future is going to be. And now I think he came out with one about like information from like the Stone Age all the way to now, like artificial intelligence. I think that's another one of those guys. Like he's just like a really good writer. I think he's a historian, so he knows history very well.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's a book that is just a good read in general. You don't have to like look to get anything out of it. Like you're just gonna enjoy reading it.
Yeah, I want to. I would want to get my hands on that. When I started reading, and it's kind of like how you mentioned the Creative Act. I haven't read the Creative Act. That's one I want to read. So, but it reminds me of that. It's like the Innovator's DNA. I can't remember who wrote it.
Mm,
Um, but
haven't heard of that one.
it's a little bit longer on the chapter side, but it's like a cookbook where it's like it's pieces and lessons to like break the mold of like do things because this is what works at this point in time. It's like taking a step back, this works well. Is this something that will work well in the future? Because things are going to change. How do I start to formulate the plan of what do I change about this to A, either make it more efficient, better, more profitable, whatever it might be? How do I start to think about that? And then it like brings back in the lessons of like, well, who did that? Why did somebody do it like that? How did they break the mold? And why are they successful? What were those like core qualities that each one had and kind of progress forward? So pulling like not like true historical, but like people who disrupted an industry in a sorts
Hmm.
to become different and then set like what we now consider as like the new standard. What do they all have in common?
Yeah.
So I thought that one was really, really cool.
Yeah. Dude, a lot of good books out there. Another one, Thinking Fast and Slow. It's by
Mhm.
Daniel Kahneman. It goes over a lot of like heuristics and like just the way people take shortcuts in their brain to like save energy, I guess, or like save thought processes and like how they can sometimes like mislead you.
Mhm.
That's another good one.
Another Daniel Bove
Yeah.
book that was, I mean, now that we just turned this whole episode into a book club, but another Daniel, another Daniel Bove book that was phenomenal was his newest one, Takeoff, all on force
Okay.
plate
I
data.
know he has. Ooh, I need to get
So
my hands on that.
Nick bought it. So director at Elon, he bought it. I think Cam, our uh, men's basketball guy, men's golf guy as well, wanted to read it, and I was like, give it to me for like 4 days before he. It's a really quick read, really quick, really quick read, but it's a lot of like graphs, a lot like the quadrant system, like you can hammer it out.
Hmm.
I like give it to me for 4 days before I give it to Cam, and I ripped
Yeah.
through it, and I was like, great. There's so much information and like breaking down of like the graphs and figures in there of like this is why this means something, this is why you should want to look for
Hmm.
this, and like how to use it's a when someone buys a force plate they should get that book. It's like a user manual to use equipment without being like it's a Vald or it's a Hawken or whatever it
Right.
is. It's like how do you use the data that you're going to collect from this, and I thought that was phenomenal.
Hmm. Yeah. I think. Yeah, that is a. Can't remember what I was gonna say now. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Do you think it'd be? I feel like that'd be cool to write a book. I don't know what the hell I would write about, but like I feel like that's just a badass thing to be able to say like, yeah, I wrote a book.
I would absolutely love to write a book. The problem is nobody gives a shit about what I have to say and who I
Yeah, I
am.
was gonna say I don't know what the hell I would write about. Feel like I actually have to do something interesting. Um
I have, I will say this, there hasn't been a ton of progress on it. I do have chapters written for a book um, that
really?
may or may not be a follow-up to a book that you mentioned earlier today.
Oh shit.
Um, I'm writing it with somebody else, so let's put it that way. But I'm doing the piece on, we're writing some chapters together. Other person is writing, you know, a little bit more on the energy system development side. Now I'm working on the alactic skill acquisition side.
Okay. Yeah, see, I need someone to help me. I definitely couldn't write that shit by my own. But yeah, no, I mean, I've seen a couple more strength coaches coming out with like books. I know oh, who is I know that there's a new book out called Strength in Numbers. I think it's just a lot of like little like anecdotes from like different strength coaches
Hmm.
around the country or the world. I know what was that book called Strength Deficit or something like that. I know that was
Yeah.
written by that talks about like concentric and eccentric strength and the difference between it. I'm trying to think. I mean, Bove has those two books. I think he has a quadrant nutrition book as well.
Yep, he does.
Um,
And then Max Schmarzo and Matt Van Dyke, they
yeah,
have the something about, I can't remember the name, like the dynamics of power or something, or power development.
yeah, yep. Um, God, I'm trying to think who's the strength coach that was at La Tech. He stabbed that freaking alligator.
Oh, Uncle Kurt Hester. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got
Kurt Hester has a book, Tales of a Strength Coach or Strength Coach Diaries or something like that.
something Maniac. I read that book. That was phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, McKeefrey,
CEO Strength Coach.
Strength Coach CEO. Yep. Yeah, so there's a good amount. I guess it's becoming more common now.
Yeah.
Um,
Joel Jameson has a book as well. That was a good book. So I think a lot of the industry is doing it. It's a great way to make money, number one, if you have proven results, just to document what your thoughts and ideas are and be able to share that in a way that, a lot of the people, for lack of a better term, when like these books are released, they're not, I don't want to take this away from anybody, but they're not a prominent person in the industry when it comes to the piece that I'm about to say, and that's like speaking at conferences, conventions, and things like that. So they don't necessarily always have a platform. So instead
right,
of going to these, doing an hour-long presentation with a Q&A and stuff, it's like, well, I'll just write a book and put my thoughts down and give that out there. And I can market it myself, I can sell it, and it'll get my ideas out there. I think that's a great way to do that rather than waiting for somebody to kind of give you the opportunity. You say, well, I'll take the opportunity to myself.
right.
Um, I
Especially because there's can be a lot of politics and stuff like that from what I've heard.
Yeah, there is,
Um,
and that's just a fact of the matter.
yeah,
There's in any organization, in any place, I think this is a good lesson for everybody to understand is that there is going to be politics involved. The person who,
mhm,
and it's not, for some people, they don't even realize that it's happening. It's just that's their personal bias. They're like, I really like this guy. They have their halo effect on them. They told them they look good or they really like their training that one time. They remember that. Now they're a great person and everything they do is great. Well, now they're going to prop them up.
yep.
But if some people,
Fist on the cock.
exactly, yeah. Um, but a lot of people don't want to play that game, and that's fine. I think sometimes it can be disingenuous to try and play the game that way. So you're just taking that opportunity to do it yourself instead of waiting for somebody to do it because you didn't kiss the cock or kiss some ass here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's definitely merit in like writing a book, and I feel like it makes it easier too, like writing a book about something that like you actually do day to day versus like I feel like
This is
it's
my
those
theoretical
books are a lot
practice.
easier to read. Yeah, like and those that's why those books are a lot easier to read, at least for like me, or like if you're an actual coach, than like a textbook about how to train athletes. Like, yeah, that's gonna be very scientific, but like talk about skin in the game. Like some of those people are probably more academics and researchers than they are actual practitioners. Not to say that that stuff doesn't work, but
Like the last time they
you could just
probably
tell
were in a
like
weight room training athletes was 10, 20 years ago.
yeah, and it's just not the same.
Hmm.
And I think like not saying that I mean that's where it gets kind of hairy is like you can't just take
A
the
hairy ass to
strength coach at the
kiss.
biggest school. Yeah, exactly. You can't just like you want to have somewhat you want to have like results with your training, but
Hmm.
like you can't just be like, okay, who's the strength coach for whoever won the national championship last year and pick them blindly because like you know that that's not always
It's not going to be
like
the
those
same
things.
thing.
Yeah, those things don't always line up. Like the best coaches don't always coach at the best schools and
No,
vice versa.
or have
So,
the most
um,
equipment or anything like that.
yes, exactly. So, I think there's definitely nuance to that. But I feel like it's easier to write a book when it's just like, oh, I'll just write down like what I've actually been doing, and then I have all this like data from the results for the past 10 years. Just put that in there as that's my evidence. I don't need sometimes you don't need a clinical study, and it's just
The anecdotal evidence is
most
probably enough.
Yeah, say the anecdotal evidence is good enough, honestly. Like shit, that's what most people in the field are going off of
Yeah.
anyway. Like, yeah, you want it to be like somewhat science backed, but like ain't nobody got time to do that peer reviewed shit.
Let alone, yeah, I mean, even just being on a research assistant for uh, a published study, like the amount of hoops that we've jumped through time and time again just to correct a small piece of language because that's what they're looking for versus writing a 180 page, essentially a dissertation off of this. And
Hmm.
does this thing work with this? It's like versus just saying, hey, we had them jump and do this and they lifted this and that's what it is. And this was the results. We've done it a couple of times and it's varied a little bit, but the trend lines all kind of correlate that direction or whatever it might be. Um, I think that anecdotal evidence should suffice for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so too. And even though it is like, I mean, that's on like the bottom of the pyramid of evidence, like it's still on there. And I think depending on what situation, like yeah, that's the pyramid of evidence for like very scientific community, but like for coaches, that's like probably kind of up there for
Yeah,
that might be all you literally all you have. So
yeah. It's just one of those things, and it's just like understand that and just be okay with it. Like, is it empirical evidence? Maybe not, but is it
mhm,
has it shown that it's worked in a variety of situations? Sometimes the anecdotal stuff is probably better because instead of it being a very controlled environment and everything is structured, so it has to look like that. You're like, well, they've done it the same framework in, essentially 15 different ways. So they've kind of ran 15 different studies in using the same framework and it's all worked. So that might be more applicable in a sense
mhm,
because you're like, okay, well, the common trend is these three pieces. And they've done it with X athletes, X training age, this environment, this, and this. It's all worked. That's what I'm going to trust probably over a very controlled, very structured, dignified study where it's 2020 and they're split into a control group and a testing group. And this is our, uh, I'm blanking on the word right now. um,
this is the intervention.
Thank
This
you.
is the
Intervention.
hypothesis.
That's
This
that's what I'm thinking
is
of.
yeah,
Yeah, our null hypothesis was null or was proved to be negative, and our hypothesis uh was proven to work in some way, shape, or form, blah, 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 etc.
yeah,
Controlled, very structured versus bringing the chaos into the fold, letting it happen, and showing that the results, while varying, have some significance because they correlate in some way, shape, or form.
100%.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That was a great book club episode with the Bev Boys.
dude. Honestly, shit, I could talk about that. I could talk about that all day. I could show you my personal library.
Dude, shoot, there's like five books just from talking with you that I'm like, I want to get. The Creative Act is number one, though.
Yeah, you definitely got to read that. I would recommend that to anyone for sure. Any of those books that we mentioned are good reads in
Hmm.
my opinion. Yeah. All right. I think I'm gonna give this
Give it to me.
bad boy Barry Burst a rating. Dude, this thing is good. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm so jealous of you.
I think I rated like the black cherry and vanilla and the strawberry candy up there in like the low to mid nines,
Hmm.
like 9.3 ish. This is up there. It's not quite as good. I'm gonna give this like I'm gonna give it a flat 9.0 though. Dude, that's good. Like Gorilla Mind is like my favorite in terms of like formula,
Hmm.
um, and all that good stuff. And this like a good like blue raspberry flavor, and then
Hard to
that
beat.
blueberry flavor on top of that. Just yeah, it's tough to beat, man.
I'll give my black
Would
coffee,
definitely recommend.
black coffee in my ghost mug,
Yep,
a solid 7.8. It was good. Not
the
my.
ghost mug definitely helps.
It does. It was a solid one. It was a hot cup. I'm normally a cold brew guy. Um, I brewed it a little strong, but now there's like a almost like you can taste some of the grounds. 'Cause I did a French press, but
Ooh,
it'll work.
big coffee connoisseur guy.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite way to make coffee if you're gonna make it? You a French press guy or like
I love
put it in the pot?
I like a pour over with like a kettle and then the actual like I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like a decanter. Um,
Okay. You
pour over
pour
the
it over the
top.
grounds and
Yeah,
then
let it basically be an old school drip coffee. I love that. The French press is a little bit thicker of like a coffee. Like the I guess like the it's not creamier, but like it's more syrupy. It's still good. Drip
it's
coffee
not
always
quite as
works.
bitter.
It's definitely more bitter.
Or it's more bitter. Okay.
So hot coffee will typically have more bitter taste, more acidity, whereas like a cold brew won't. So like a lot of people can drink cold brew black, but not drink hot coffee black because of the bitterness and the acidity. Because
Okay. I have noticed that actually.
when you cook it or brew it with the heat, you dial up on the pH level. So it'll be a little bit more acidic. But I like it. That's just me. But yeah.
Nice.
Well, everybody,
All right, folks. Thank you for watching again. Hope you enjoyed that book club slash New Year's resolutions, thoughts, advice. This will probably be coming out shortly here. Definitely listen to our Q&A, our Bed Boys inaugural Q&A if you haven't already. That's live today, January 1st. Had some great questions on that. So definitely give that a listen. And yeah, bevboys.com, get you a shirt. Follow us on Instagram at bevboystv. Posting pretty regularly there, as well as on our personal accounts. So I'm French underscore fit 40 and Brian is
B Shakuski, BSZUTKOWSKI. Definitely follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, like the videos as well. That really helps us. We are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Spotify. The full video is also on Spotify. So go like us on
that's right.
Spotify, subscribe and follow us. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called follow on Spotify and Apple Music. Definitely, if you can, leave us a good review. It helps us. It helps us get bumped up. So if someone searches us, we'll kind of get pushed to the front of the algorithm. There's not many Bev Boys or BEV when you go on to Spotify or Apple Music, but it helps us a ton, so we appreciate it. Um, but as always, I enjoy every little bit of this with you. Here's to a beautiful 2025 where Bev Boys can continue to grow, prosper, and hopefully at some point we'll have the option to quit our day jobs and still decide not to do
Yep.
it.
Yeah, dude, we're coming up on 1 year anniversary of Bed Boys, so
In
we've made it longer than a lot of podcasts.
9 days. 9 days.
Yeah, as I say, it's this month, so
Hmm.
sheesh, time flies when you're slamming energy drinks.
You're jittered up.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, folks, for watching, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.